afternoon. We're going to give everybody a few seconds to chime in. My name is Shelly and I'm the director here at the Addison TreeHouse, and this is our second Facebook Live experience. I'm sitting here with the CEO, founder and chief good guy of Pickup, Brenda Stoner, and I'm really excited for her to share with everyone her journey as a female entrepreneur here in Dallas, and we're going to go ahead and get to talking about that. So Brenda, if you could go ahead and start by talking a little bit about yourself, about your history as an entrepreneur. I know that Pickup isn't your first venture, so.
Yeah, I'm not like the regular entrepreneurs that
Right.
you put here.
No.
Got a little age on me, but I started my career as an engineer at Texas Instruments, and like a lot of the engineers at TI, left to start my first business. I was 28 years old, so that's been a number of years ago. About 6 startups have progressed since then. This is about my 6th or 7th one. So it's been a long journey, and this Pickup is kind of the best of the best in terms of startups. But I've got a lot of experience in starting businesses and finishing businesses, and I like to say that it's easy to start, it's not so easy to finish.
Of course, yeah. And so talk to us about Pickup. What is Pickup?
Pickup is it's on-demand delivery. So we use good guys in their pickup trucks and other vehicles, but primarily pickup trucks, to pick up and deliver items on an instant basis. So if you want something moved, we've got technology, we have apps, we've got responsive web. You can order a pickup by phone. So we have lots of ways for you to reach us, but you can order a pickup truck and a guy or two to come move your big heavy items. So we look at it as kind of hyper-local last mile logistics. And for us, that means more than 50 pounds, less than 50 miles.
And how did you come up with the idea for Pickup? Because it's like, oh my gosh, you know, that is amazing. How did that come to you?
Well, the aha moment was, it was wrapping up another startup. So I had a lot of inventory downtown that needed to move uptown, and I needed to get it out that same day. As you know, when you're wrapping up a business, sometimes things get urgent. And so I started looking at how do you move a giant box, 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot across town in the same day. And there's really no good way to do it. The USPS looks at that as something that's too big for their vehicle, so they don't even touch it. UPS and FedEx call it freight, and they want to put it on a skid and send it 2 to 3 days and $300 to $400. There's just no good way. So I was driving up the tollway. Everybody's heard this story. It's kind of tired now, but driving up the tollway, you drive around Dallas. 1 in 4 vehicles, something like that, is a pickup truck. Mm-hmm. And you look behind the wheel, and you got guys with like big forearms, right? They're handsome guys. They're sturdy. They're capable. They're the guys you borrow the trucks from.
Right. And
in the back of their pickup trucks, they're pristine and they're empty, and they're driving all over town.
Right.
And so, as a big fan of rideshare, it all smashed together that one day, and I just said, okay, this is something that has to happen. And I was just closing another business, ready to go take a job so I could get health benefits and have a little security for myself, and it wasn't to be. So this is, you fast forward it's almost 3 years to the day from that aha moment, and this is where we are. So we've come a long way in 3 years.
You have. And so, I know it's been it's about 2 years ago, or 2 years ago, in April of 2015, you moved into the TreeHouse. So where were you when you moved into the TreeHouse? What brought you to the TreeHouse?
Well, we were working out of my kitchen, which is hard, right? When you work out of your house, some people can do that, some people can't. And the key for anybody who's starting a business is trying to keep things lean, right? There's not a lot of money, a lot of extra money, and you can't go sign a lease, because a lease, as I'm finding now, is 3 to 5 year commitment. And when you're starting something, you certainly don't want to do that, and you don't want to work out of your house. And we had a couple of us working at that time. I'd gone out and bought a pickup truck, and we were driving around, delivering stuff around town to figure out if there was really a business. Well, we decided there was, and we needed a place to kind of hang a shingle. And so we were looking around, we were trying to find lease space, and we stumbled upon the TreeHouse because the deck had been open for a while. Mm-hmm. And stumbled in, and the energy was here, and there were a lot of people here, there were a lot of like-minded things going on. There's a lot of development, there's whiteboards on every wall. The energy was here, and it's like, okay, we found where we need to be, and it's a month-to-month commitment, and that was an easy one. Mm-hmm. So we rented that office right over there and hung up our shingle and started working. We just sat down and went to work.
Sure. And for the audience, I want to let everybody know that that office to this day is still called the Pickup Office. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to, it is still the Pickup Office. Yeah. So you've definitely left your mark here at the TreeHouse.
We did. We stored a lot of moving gear. We put a lot of moving blankets in that office.
Definitely. And so when you came here, what stage were you at? Did you have, was it just you? Talk to me about that.
There were 3 of us at that time, and we had incorporated in June of 2014. It took me about 6 months to get the business plan, the business model, get everything figured out. In December, January, we started raising money. And so by the time we came here, we hadn't really raised any money. It was my own money. And as you know, that's how most people start. You bootstrap. So we were bootstrapping, trying to figure out how to do it. Started raising money. Again, just 3 of us, 1 pickup truck, and we started developing technology from here.
Wow, that's great. And so talk to me about where you are now and then the journey of how you got there.
Well, the journey is circuitous. There are many, many miles.
Yes.
But now we are 3 years since inception, 2 years of physical operations. First truck went on the road in June of 2015. Right after, we were here April, May, June. We launched the first set of apps in the App Store.
Great. And
they worked. And from there, we just continued to improve technology. But in the case of the business, I mean, we call ourselves a tech-enabled service. We're not a technology business. We're a service business, and we're enabled by tech. So at this point, we've done tens of thousands of deliveries. We've expanded from just Dallas to Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, and now we're stretching into San Antonio, San Marcos at the end of the summer. So 5 cities. We just about have Texas covered, which means we're ready to go somewhere else. That's the next move for us.
Absolutely.
So expansion for us is imminent. We have raised, we've raised a couple of $1 million. We're raising more, and so we're looking forward to what the next couple of years bring.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to watching and witnessing. So I'd like to talk a little bit about you being a female founder. Can you touch on that? There's a lot of talk going around female entrepreneurship right now. Talk to me about your experience.
There is a lot of talk going around that. And again, when I was an engineering student, I think only like 7% of the engineering students were female. And I never got into those groups or like women in engineering. It's like I'm an engineer, but I happen to be a woman. So that's the way I look at it. I'm a founder, but I happen to be a female.
I like that.
So I kind of look at it from that perspective. But there is a lot in the press right now about venture funding, and somebody did a study on Crunchbase, I think it was Pritzker Group, and they looked at it and said, how many female founders are getting funded? And the percentages are quite low. They cite a few reasons for that. There's some gender bias that probably exists. I mean, we all have it. Female VCs even say that they have some gender bias. Also the fact that a lot of women start businesses maybe smartly by doing bootstrap rather than raising money. My first 3 businesses I did by a bootstrap.
Okay.
I didn't get to other people's money until the last 2. So until you know what you're doing, other people's money puts a really serious bend on what you're trying to do. So I don't sleep when I have other people's money at risk. Mm-hmm. When it's my money, it's really not such a big deal. So I think a lot of women are just maybe wise or shrewd or just not ready to take a risk like that. So a lot of the businesses they start don't require venture capital. Mm-hmm. And so there may just be some wisdom in that. Maybe it's a gender bias, but maybe it's just the way that we go about the problem.
Sure, definitely. And so as a successful female entrepreneur in Dallas, though, what do you attribute your success to?
Oh, I wouldn't call myself a success yet, but to get to where I am at this point, mostly it's about persistence. You just have to show up every day, and in order to be persistent at what you're doing, there has to be a passion attached to what you do. And I mean, I care so much about the people in our network, our good guy drivers, our own team. And for me, it's all about the people and what we can do on a daily basis to change people's lives.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, providing shareholder return, because that's really important now. Again, that concept of other people's money at risk is one that keeps you from sleeping a lot.
Sure. And I want to go back, you touched on how you really care about your team, and I just want to give a personal story. I've actually used Pickup before, and I called ahead and I talked to OJ on the phone, and he was a delight to talk to.
Oh, shout out OJ.
Shout out OJ. And it was just the easiest, most seamless experience. And I'm a strong girl, but there were 6 or 7 heavy items that I needed lifted, and I drive a 2-door Honda Accord. So Pickup was an amazing experience for me. Not only was OJ amazing to talk to and work with on the phone, but the gentleman who came in the pickup truck, I mean, he was just so happy to be there and happy to work with me. How do you maintain that company culture?
Culture for us is the holy grail. And so if you go back to that story where I envisioned the guys driving the pickup trucks, these are the good guys. And so we started the concept of good guys with pickups on demand. It's morphed a little, but that's really what that's about, is taking somebody with a resource. They've got time to give, they've got energy, they've got their hands, they've got their capability, they got their tools, they got their trucks. And so really for a lot of those guys, and we use a lot of military veterans, firefighters, first responders, these are service-minded people. They're some of the best out there. We've got hundreds of drivers in the field, and I would say I know most of them. I dialogue with most of them. I use pickup all the time. I'm a single mom, so there's a lot of stuff I need to move in and out of my house. My garage is full of stuff that's been delivered by pickup guys.
Right.
But these guys are great. So really we just tapped into a culture that already existed. So the key for us is provide a really good experience for you as a customer. Hopefully you felt like you paid a fair value.
Absolutely.
It's not very expensive.
No.
You got it immediately. You had a good, consistent quality of service. The guy who showed up made a better wage than most people who do deliveries. He made a living wage that's close to what his normal job would be. So in the case of a veteran or a firefighter, we try to match their wage. So pay them a lot, make a good margin in the middle, because again, we need to talk about profit and how important that is to business. So there's all these P's: passion, profit, persistence, but that's a big part of it. So the culture really, they're building their own culture, and we built it here in Dallas, and we thought, okay, let's go prove that we can do it somewhere else. We transplanted to Houston, and sure enough, it cropped up there. It did it again in Austin. It's happening in Fort Worth. So we think we have bottled something secret that is, I just let the secret out. So. Shh. But I don't worry about competition, because what we're building is something that's really, really tight.
Absolutely. And so, talk to me a little bit about your journey. We were talking earlier about the highs being really high as an entrepreneur and the lows being low. It's a journey.
It is a journey.
Talk to me about that for you. Are there any, anything that you can talk about that for there?
Well, yeah, it is a journey, and as you said, the highs are highs and the lows are lows. And I had the good fortune on Tuesday night to sit down at a table with Kevin Vela and some of his founders.
Shout out Kevin Vela!
Shout out, yeah. I love my lawyer. Hi, Kevin. You're awesome. I say it to everybody. If you need a startup attorney, go see Kevin Vela. Anyway, he sat down and said, let me bring some of my founders together that are all in the same kind of place. You've raised some money, you're ready to go to the next level, and let's have a dialogue about what that's like. And everybody just sat down. It's like a collective sigh of relief. It's like, I see what you see what I see. It's a lonely road in some cases, right? I've lost some friends, I've lost loved ones, my family has suffered for it. So you have to take a long view about it. And when you come to start a business, you have to put all your pennies in a pile and look at them and say, okay, am I willing to lose all of those? Because in many cases, you have to dig in as deep as anybody. And when the times get dark, you're the person, right? Everybody turns and looks at you and says, all right, now how are we going to make payroll?
Right.
And you have to figure it out. So it's hard, and those are dark times. And so everybody at that table had that experience where it's a lonely road. And having that sense of community and camaraderie to talk about, okay, I recognize that you see what I see.
Right.
And so that was a big eye-opening thing. And again, in Dallas, we tend to spread ourselves, which is why the co-working thing, and Mike Sederzuski said it to me the other night, and shout out to Mike too. Yeah. So he said, Brenda, don't forget about community, because I try to avoid some of the noise around what we're doing. And we keep our heads down, and the people that are being successful, they're off in corners doing work. And we have to remember that we have to come back together as community. And Tuesday night was just a really strong reminder that I really need those people as a support group. And so you can find them in co-working spaces. You can find them in, I wouldn't call them networking groups, but in groups where like-minded people come together.
Absolutely. It's really great. And so also, as you started your journey with Pickup, 3 years ago, has your vision pivoted at all? Oh, yeah.
Pivot's become a very pivotal word, but of course. So when we started, we spent the first year trying to find product market fit. And so if you look at our sales, it does something like this: up, down, up, down, up, down. We're trying to figure it out. Well, in March of last year, we kind of figured out what our exact mix needed to look like, and we have been on a hockey stick ever since. So I think we're enjoying something like 10% compound monthly growth rate. So 10% month over month for a very consistent amount of time.
That's fantastic.
So investors are responding quite well to that.
Yeah, and so that's obviously a success story. How do you measure success personally for yourself and for your company?
Success for us and for me. Success it's drawn in a number of different ways. There's, of course, making sure that you're paying people on a monthly basis.
Sure.
So keeping your team going. Keeping the investors getting a good return. So you've got so many people and so many different facets. You got to keep your vendors paid. You got to keep the customer value delivered. So there's a lot of different ways you consider success. But for me, the best way for me is to see a bunch of guys out there delivering for us, making money, making people happy, and that's really it. I mean, our real customer is our driver core.
Yeah.
The good guys are what make it work.
Absolutely. And so as a serial entrepreneur and you've started many businesses, how do you know that when you have an idea that it's something that you really should pursue? How do you differentiate the good ideas from the bad ideas?
I'd like to say that I knew that because I have some bad ideas. And I can show you boxes of inventory of stuff that was a bad idea. But the best way to do it is you have to look at an idea and you share it with your friends. And that's where, again, the community can help you. But the best way to do it, and the best way I know how, is to model it in math. Okay. So most entrepreneurs come to me and say, I want to start this business. I said, well, have you built a model? No, what's that? So you have to prove that the math works. And the other piece that, and again, if you're starting up in Silicon Valley, maybe people don't care about profit, but when you're starting up in Texas, or in particular in Dallas, people want to know what's your profit plan and how fast can you get to profitability. And so as you're looking at what makes a successful business, I look at, will it work in a math model? And then I cut the math model in half and say, will it work if only half of my assumptions come true? And then you double the hard parts and say, okay, can we make it work if it takes twice as long and is twice as hard? And if you still have something that's fairly profitable, you're in good shape.
Wow, definitely. And so do you have any particular industry that you think is a little bit easier to start a, not easier, it's not easy by any means to start a business, but that you refer people to, hey, go this way?
Yeah, actually I do. So I've done product businesses, I've done service businesses, I've done consulting, I've done a lot of different, and I've done it in a lot of different industries, highly regulated industries where compliance is important. Of course, every industry now is highly regulated, yes. So it's a challenge as a startup. So you need to pick something that isn't a regulatory fight. And we all know who I'm talking about, right? So pick something where there's no barrier to entry in terms of the federal government going to come and stop you from what you're doing. It's hard enough. You're going to stop yourself with your own fears first, but pick something that doesn't pick a fight with somebody else. Mm-hmm. The other thing to look at is service business. Typically doesn't take as much capital because you can start generating service revenue right away. If you want to build a product, you got minimum order quantities, you got prototyping, you got manufacturing expenses, you've got engineering expenses. Service businesses are relatively easy to start. So I don't know, what's the percentage of service businesses here at TreeHouse?
Service businesses here at the TreeHouse, I would probably say about 30%.
And they take substantially less capital because you're generating revenue.
Absolutely.
And that's where our case is. Yeah. So if you've got service revenue and you have gross margin and you keep your expenses tight, eventually you get to something called profit. Mm-hmm. And that's what your investors want, and that's what you want if you're your primary investor.
Absolutely.
Profit's where it's at.
Yes, profit. And so talk to me about what it's like a day in the life as this founder and chief good guy at Pickup. What does a day in the life look like for you?
Well, I'm sure like all the founders, your day, we talk about it like whack-a-mole. You know that game at Dave & Buster's?
No, I don't.
It's not Dave & Buster's now, it's the other TreeHouse.
Right.
But it was a game in the arcade, and it was a little panel, and you have a bunch of holes.
Oh, and the little
mole, the mole comes up, and you have to whack the mole.
Right.
So in our case, it's a whack-a-mole game. So we've got the supply side of our business, so we're constantly recruiting good guy drivers. We have the demand side. We have to be constantly selling customers, and we love big customers who are repeat business. And then we've got technology. And then we have finance, and then we have HR. So there's always something that's, as you're trying to grow it, one of those things pops up and requires more attention than the other. So you're constantly whacking the mole.
Right. You
just don't know which one it's going to be in that. And that's what's, I guess, the joy of what we do is that every day is different. Mm-hmm. Every day comes with its set of challenges. And when you can lay down at night and say, I solved those, it's so the ones rewarding. That you don't solve that is a problem.
Of course.
That's the one that wakes you up at 4.
Right.
But if you can knock out...
Or you stay up till 4.
Exactly. Yeah, and you have to solve them. So,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's how we look at the day in the life. It's fun, it's exciting. Sometimes it's hard, but and it's a lot of work. But it's very, very rewarding.
Do you have any advice that you would give to entrepreneurs who are just starting out? And this is actually a 2-part question because I want to know, do you have advice for entrepreneurs? Do you have different advice for female entrepreneurs who are just starting out?
I think the advice is the same. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote down 5 things. They're on the board right back here. So I'm going to look really smart because I'm going to give a 5-part answer, but I'm not really. So the first one is plan for profit, which we've talked about because that's the only kind of business that makes sense. Mm-hmm. The second one is choose your partners wisely. And I think almost everybody at the table of 8 the other night had a story to tell about a partner problem. The primary reasons why businesses fail: they run out of capital, they have problems with their teammates or their partners, or they fail to get product market fit. It's those 3 things. And if you can knock those 3 risks out of your business, and somebody told me the other day, you've knocked all these things out. So now that we've gotten rid of the high risk points, a different crop of investors comes in to look at the business. They won't get the returns that the early guys did, some of those people who put in when it was just an idea. But at this point, if you whip the risk out, there's a different set of money that comes to the table. So that's number 3. Number 4 is, again, count your pennies and be ready. Be ready to ante in with whatever money you've got, because that's what it takes. And everybody wants to see that you're in all the way.
Absolutely.
At this point, I've got a couple $100,000 in on this business, so it's painful. But when you sit down across from an investor, they say, "Oh, she's all in, right? She's got to make this one work. And she's got to sell her house."
Why would they take you seriously if you don't take yourself seriously?
Exactly.
Right.
And then the other piece is batten down your life. So we had one of our founders just couldn't make it, right? You have to assume that you're going to go 2 to 3 years, probably without salary substantially. You're going to be taking money out of savings, out of pocket. It's hard. It's a hard road. So batten down your life. I own my house. I own my car. I scaled everything back. So I live on a very meager amount of money. So in order to be able to be persistent with your passion, you have to be able to scale your life. And if you can't do that, or you don't have a spouse or a significant other who can carry the load while you chase your butterflies, it can get really stressful on the family. So I advise people, scale back. Get a smaller place, save all your money, but definitely batten down your life and get ready for a long road, and assume it's going to take 3 years.
Sure.
Because it does. And then the 5th one is, again, finding your support community, whether that's your friends, your family, your co-working group, your network. But don't forget that, because it's important. It's important to your mental health.
Absolutely. What's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
What's my favorite part? I don't even like to use the word because I can't spell it. Every time I type it, I type it wrong. So my favorite part, I think, is just the creativity I get to bring to work every single day.
Yeah.
And we don't look at our thing as a solid mission. You asked how often do we pivot? We pivot a lot. We try to stay extremely focused on what we're doing. And the menu runner guys said the same thing, right? Focus is where you're going to get there, but you can't get so focused in and so tunneled out that you miss something big.
Absolutely.
So we are constantly running what we call tests. And maybe it's a different kind of truck, maybe it's a different market, maybe it's a different type of service. But we're constantly running these tests. And for me, it's like starting a little business all over again, all around us.
Right.
So that's, for me, is the joy, is helping other people start businesses, starting many businesses within our business, and then just working on our own.
That's really great. Do you have any, before I ask you my final question, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I don't know. I think it's the positive attitude is probably the thing to bring to work with you every single day. It's hard, right? Some days it's like, I don't know if we're going to make it, if we're not going to make it, but if you bring your positive attitude, at least you're having a good life, right?
Absolutely.
You got to be able to laugh. So we have a lot of humor around what we do. And you talk about OJ. He's funny. Yeah. And he lightens up the place a lot.
He was so much fun.
Yeah, our whole team likes to have a laugh or two. So keep your humor about you and keep your positive attitude.
Awesome. And so my last and final question that I'm going to ask you, Brenda, is what does co-working mean to you? And the reason why I ask this question is because here at the TreeHouse, we are a nonprofit co-working space that focuses on providing the resources that entrepreneurs and startups need to be successful. But co-working means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So what does it mean to you?
It means that whole thing, the common theme, it's community. And it's people that are like-minded. There are people of diverse backgrounds, and you don't get that access. If you're holed up in a 1,000-square-foot office with the door shut every day, you're not going to get exposed to what you need to. And the internet's great, but human interaction is really where it's at. And for us to feel valuable as humans, we need to interact with one another. That's why I love our business. Our business is about people. We're here to help people. We're helping the guys that are helping the people. So it's really about humans and human interaction. So that's what co-working means to me. It's like, let's make it happen together.
I love that. Awesome. Well, Brenda, thank you so much for coming today. It's been so great to talk to you and hear your honesty around entrepreneurship and pickup, and it's so great to see all the wonderful things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And
coming to a city near you.
Yes, coming to a city near you, and we love having you here at the Treehouse, and I hope that you come back soon. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. You can press the follow button. Next week we will be, every Thursday we'll be live at 2:30 p.m. with a different Treehouse alumni and DFW startup. Next week we'll be live with the CEO and founder of Factory Glam. So definitely tune in for that, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, Brenda.
Thanks.